And we're live. Hello, hello. Adnan here from the Bindplane team. Super thrilled about kicking off day 2 of the launch week. Yesterday was a whirlwind of a bunch of new features, planning, and everything kind of culminating into this quintessential week of launches. Today, we have a brand new feature to launch for you. And to show you more about that, we have Ryan and Dakota here with me today. So yeah, Ryan, go ahead and introduce yourself, Dakota as well, and we can jump right in.
Yeah, hey, what's up, everyone? So I want to talk to you a little bit about Bring Your Own Collector and the motivation for this, and kind of how we think about how folks should be building their pipeline and thinking about the architecture. And so, when we first got started building Bindplane, obviously the op-amp protocol was in its infancy. It's something we were kind of building, alongside some other folks in the community to work with Bindplane and really enable Bindplane to work. And so what that meant is really out of necessity, we needed our own distribution of the collector. And so, of course, we've got the Bindplane distro for OpenTelemetry, which just about everybody is using today with Bindplane. And it's great. It's an excellent build if you don't want to think about this stuff at all and you just want a collector build that's going to work and is totally vendor neutral. And of course, open source being a distro of OTel, it's perfect for you. But what we started to hear from a lot of our customers is some of the deeper motivation for adopting OpenTelemetry. And so if you think about how pipelines kind of came into the picture, folks really were sick of being locked into a specific vendor and a specific backend, right? And so they started to adopt a telemetry pipeline to give them that flexibility. But if you end up adopting a proprietary pipeline, you kind of just shift your lock-in left into the pipeline. And so we think people should really own that data layer, that collection layer. And so if you ever were to get rid of Bindplane for any reason, you should be able to continue to use your collectors as is. Your pipeline should continue to function. We think if you truly want vendor neutrality, that's really important. And so what folks, were saying to us is, hey, we're adopting OpenTelemetry, but we don't want to use even the Bindplane distro. We don't want to use any vendor distro. We actually just want to build our own collector. Can Bindplane support that? And for a long time, the answer was no. And so I'm really excited to announce that today the answer is yes. And we have support for Bring Your Own Collector. Thanks to a lot of hard work from Dakota, who's going to demo it for you, and lots of other folks on the Bindplane team. But what this means is now you can just build your own distro of OTel, or you could build many distros of OTel for different types of use cases, like an edge collector, a gateway collector. Connect those to Bindplane, and Bindplane will just adapt its experience to work with just the components you have inside of that collector. So it's really seamless. Really great, and we think many folks are going to choose to just bring their own collector. Now, actually building and maintaining a distro of the collector is a whole effort in of itself. So anyone that's done this, maybe getting that first build out is pretty easy, but actually setting up a pipeline to maintain this over time can be really challenging. And so we took everything we've learned about building and maintaining the Bindplane distro, and we've open sourced a tool called the OpenTelemetry Distribution Builder. This builds on top of OCB, which is the OTel Collector Builder that many folks might be familiar with, and introduces package generation and GitHub action to really make managing your own distro really easy. So now building your own distro is easy with this open source utility, OTel Distro Builder. And then once you've done that, Bindplane can manage it now with support for Bring Your Own Collector. So we're really excited about this. I'm going to hand it over to Dakota at this point, and he's going to show how this looks in Bindplane.
Yeah, Dakota, you're muted, so
Sorry
there
about
you go.
that. 1 second. All right, cool.
So yeah, while Dakota is getting set up, just pull back into here. If you want to go ahead and try the ODB yourself and building your own distro and then using the custom collector you do build with Bindplane, you can essentially either use the GitHub action that we do provide. So just jumping into the marketplace and the actions and go ahead and use the latest one, or you can essentially just fork the repo itself. Jump over to the OTel-distro-builder, give it the star as well, because why not? And then you can fork it yourself and use it that way. And let me switch over to Dakota for a more hands-on demo.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So today I'm going to show a part of the functionality introduced by Bring Your Own Collector. So as Ryan mentioned, a big emphasis of this is allowing you to create your own manifests and own distributions of the OTel collector. And so this means it's going to include only the components you want and only the components you need. An issue can arise, however, if we're in Bindplane. We have all sorts of different sources and destinations that you can use with your collector. However, if you're building your distribution and you don't include say you only need the OTLP exporter, you're not going to need Redis or any of this. If you try and create a configuration with these and load out to your collector, it's going to fail. It's because it does not have that component. It just literally won't work. So that introduces a need for this thing called available components, which is where the collector is going to report which components and which versions of those components this collector was built with and what it has access to. And what that allows us to do is kind of filter out like what you can roll out to your collector. And with this, we're able to kind of safeguard and prevent the collector from getting put into a bad state where it just simply can't run just because it just does not have the ability to run. So a good example of this, I've got this GCP config where I'm just sending post metrics to Google Cloud. And we can see here, I've got this collector called Dakota Demo. If I click into it, this is a custom OTel collector type. This was my own distribution I built. Crucially, though, it does not have the Google Cloud exporter in its manifest. So rolling this config out to this collector would fail. And that's exactly what I did just beforehand. You can see I've got this collector in this new incompatible status. And I want to clarify, the collector never received this config. It's still running with the same config it had before. It's just in Bindplane, we're noting this as an incompatible agent, which means the config that we tried rolling out to it will not run on the collector. And so, we provide this little error here explaining, your agent does not have the required components, and we'll tell you what components are missing from this config that your collector doesn't have. So that's kind of like you get yourself in the worst case scenario. In terms of actually building a config for your distribution, so I'm going to create one where I'm sending to Google Cloud Storage instead of just GCP. And I'm going to select my custom OTel collector here from this agent type menu. And I've built this collector to support Linux, Mac OS, and Windows. I'm running a Windows collector right now, so I'll select that. Now, when I come to add sources, you can see I've got 6 sources here I can choose from. All of these other ones are under this incompatible header. And what that means is for whatever reason, my collector can't run it because it doesn't have the right component. And so if I click into one of these, do Elasticsearch. If I click into this, is going to tell me why I can't use this source. And we can see here that in order to use logs, I would need the plugin receiver of at least greater than or equal to version 0. So basically any version of the plugin receiver, I need to have my manifest in order to use this for logs. For metrics, it's because I need the Elasticsearch receiver. So we're very upfront about why you can't use a source. What this allows you to do is you can go back to your manifest and edit it if you want to use one of these sources, create a new version of your distribution, and then connect that, and you'll be all set.
Dakota, what
And
I
this,
love about that too is like, that initial state you showed where the agent was just in this incompatible state. This basically like almost always prevents you from getting there, because we're
exactly.
now not going to let you configure something that isn't going to be able to be rolled out to that agent.
Yeah,
But, I think it's
exactly.
super cool.
Yeah. And so I can do, however, is use this host metrics receiver, or source, I should say. And same thing as before with sources, with destinations here. I've got a lot more just because I do have the OTLP exporter, and a lot of these do use that. But then again, a lot of these don't. And then in that initial use case, you can see here the Google Cloud destination is grayed out. And again, it's because I don't have the Google Cloud exporter. So to your point, Ryan, I just can't get myself into that state trying to build a new config like this. Um, However, I do have access to the, where is it? Google Cloud Storage destination. I've got a destination made already here. So you don't have to see me go through and configure that. But I can find my agent. It's still in this incompatible. Ooh, still in this incompatible state. Apply this config. Start the rollout. And there was one error for a second, but looks like we're doing good now. Yeah, I think our agent should be good. If I come over here into GCS, give it a refresh, you can see we've got some host metrics flowing. Um, just uploaded. So yeah,
Yeah, I love this. I love it. I mean, this is the fact that you can basically build a slimmer binary of your collector for specifically the things you need, and Bindplane just figures out that it is a slight slimmer binary and adapts to that use case or to whatever use case you might have. And then also kind of like looking at that slimmer binaries, it's not just because it's a slimmer binary, it's also that if you want a newest feature, essentially the vendors that provide custom OTel collectors, they don't really fork the contrib collector all that often. So if you want a new feature, like a new exporter or a new extension or whatever, you essentially need to build your own, right? So this lets you do that as well. So you can also get all of the newest features. You can also see exactly what they're doing because it's essentially matching your manifest. So the manifest you're using, I can pull a manifest up so you can, so we're looking at the same thing. Essentially, if you do have a manifest for a collector that you're building, and if we look at the exporters, we can see here, if we can find the Google Cloud, the one, so whatever. So the one that Dakota was just showing, because I have it in my manifest, yep, this is essentially what I need, and it's going to show up in Bindplane. If I go in and just delete all of half of these, that will essentially match in the Bindplane UI once I do build this collector and connect it to the control plane. So yeah, I mean, I just think that having that power and also getting the feedback loop of I can cherry pick what I want from the contrib and get that into my version and have that run and be managed by Bindplane. I don't know. that's just, it sits right. I think from an OTel community perspective and from OTel as a philosophy, I just think it sits right. But yeah.
Yeah,
I think
one other
that's
thing
two
that's
cents.
cool, kind of related to that, Adnan. Something we also see is customers that are a little further along in their hotel adoption or a little more comfortable starting to build their own custom internal components. So that could be their own receiver that works with an internal API. It's never going to be upstream. And so what this lets you do is put that into your build of the collector. Of course, the way we built Bindplane is to make it so these resources inside of Bindplane, like an actual source, is really easy to build. And so you could build your own OTel receiver, very quickly build a corresponding Bindplane source that is only available in your Bindplane instance. And now you've got this great user experience for all your internal users that are going to, be using and managing that custom receiver now via Bindplane. And so that, the ability to customize Bindplane, is just kind of off the charts now.
Yeah, then having the OTel distro builder as well, where you can get a package, a version package, and then have that whole process automated as well, where you can. I like saying you can spend more time with your family because you're actually automating the things that you don't really want to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think something cool to show for my demo. I used our GitHub action here to make that version of the collector we're just looking at. I've got this manifest here specifying it, or the GitHub action, and this is my manifest I used to build that version of the collector. And it's just my own personal public repo. Really easy. Just do it yourself.
And then every time you can basically tag a new release, it triggers the action, and then it's going to tag the collector with that same release from the repository. So
Exactly.
it's really, it's also just kind of sanity checking yourself. There's no chance you can mess up something in this process.
And I've got all of these builds and packages for Linux and Darwin and Windows. All just there, easy for me to use.
Awesome. Yeah. We're at more or less the 18-minute mark, so I promise to keep these short and sweet. All of the daily launches, they have to stay around 15 minutes to make sure that we're respectful of your time as well. And yeah, let's end on a high note and catch you tomorrow at the same time. So yeah, cheers and see you tomorrow.
Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.